Holly, thank you very much for joining me today on Real Feel Insights. You have everything you need? You're comfortable?
Great.
Are you a little nervous?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. We're going to be talking about a pretty, I'm sorry that you have had to go through this in your life. I always think back on like when we're little girls or little kids, we are looking forward to life and we have all these dreams and goals. And then, as we get older, life happens. Mm-hmm. So you lost a child.
Yes.
So I would like to maybe, let's kind of maybe tell me a little bit about like where you grew up, position in your family, of your family of origin. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I grew up in north central Minnesota. Older sister, younger brother, and parents were together. Went to same elementary all through high school.
So you had a pretty good, solid upbringing
Yeah.
with three
lots
children.
of extended family in the
Okay.
area. And
Okay.
yeah, good family support system.
Oh, yeah. So you graduate from high school and you go to college?
I did,
Okay.
yeah. I went to dental hygiene school.
Okay.
But my goal in life was to be a mom.
Oh.
So
Oh,
I got married young and started having kids right away.
Okay. Really,
Yep.
Truly, that was your goal.
Yes,
your goal.
I wanted to be a mom.
Be a mom. Get married, be a mom, do the whole domesticated thing. Okay.
And then work a little bit.
Okay, sure. I think it's really interesting for me when I visit with people because so many times people, they have their goals. They want to be very career oriented. Nope. They want to be their goal is be a mom, stay at home. Mm-hmm. There's so many ways, people approach life so different. So that was your approach. You wanted to get married, you wanted to have children.
But I didn't want to stay home all the time.
All the
I wanted
time,
to work
okay.
a little and
Okay.
make some money, but
Sure.
I only
Yeah.
ever worked part-time with raising 4 kids. And
Okay, so you have 4 children. Okay,
Yes.
all right. So you got married like right out of college
a year out of high school.
Okay.
So 19 when I got married.
Wow, you did get young. Mm-hmm. Are you high school sweethearts?
Well, we weren't at the same high school, but yes, we met when I was 13 and he was 16. And then kind of got together when I was 15 and he was 17, and then been together ever since.
That's a beautiful story. How long have you been married now?
Almost 31 years.
Okay. How old are you, Holly?
Just turned 50 last week.
Ooh, good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
Okay. We're in competition here a little bit with this fire crackling and popping here. It's echoing in my headphones here a little bit.
Sounds peaceful.
Oh, that's great.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so then you get your degree. You're a hygienist. You're married. When does baby number 1 come? Right away,
yeah.
or did you wait a little bit?
A year and 3 months after we got married.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I got pregnant about 3 months after 6 months after we got married, something like that anyway.
Sure,
So we had
right.
been married just over a year when
Okay.
I had him. So.
Okay. All right. So not a honeymoon baby.
No, not
But
quite.
yeah. Okay. All right. So you have 4 children now? Okay. And
All boys.
all boys. No girl in there. So you're a total boy mom all the way.
Total boy mom.
Okay. You wouldn't even know what to do with a little girl after having all those.
Until I got my granddaughters.
Oh, I knew that.
Yes.
I bet she's just the world to you.
Oh, they are.
Oh. How many do you have? How many grands?
2 right now and 2 more on the way.
Oh my.
Another little girl and a boy, finally.
Oh, finally.
Yes,
You want-
finally. So I say I had so many kids because I wanted a girl.
Okay.
But after the 4th, I thought I better stop.
Okay. All right. So you're doing the mother thing and the wife thing, and you got a pretty good life here. Is what?
it's a good life.
Yeah, raising the kids, and so I think that our topic is going to be the loss of your child. Can you tell me a little bit about where he's placed in your 4 children, and how things kind of became became what they did?
Well, Tanner was our first, and I don't know, maybe in true first child fashion, he was always kind of our handful. He was a busy toddler, kind of a reckless child, jumping his bike, getting hurt a lot. a lot of ER visits, broken bones, stitches, just
gosh.
because he was just,
Inquisitive
yes.
about life.
Yes.
Okay.
And it just kind of seemed to go on into his teen years, and always had to be doing something with somebody, sleepovers, somebody over, go, wake up in the morning, what are we gonna do today, who's coming over, all that. It was a little exhausting at times, but it just kind of got to be where some of the other kids he was hanging out with just maybe weren't the greatest influence, but you also can't control who your kids hang out with. And so I think it just kind of started with that. He had some older friends. Some of the places he went had maybe older siblings, and I don't know exactly how and when the addiction started. I mean, he did give one example of he saw somebody in the bathroom when he was in 7th grade, bathroom at school, shooting up. And he said, "What's that? I want to try it." And he said the older kid tied off his arm and injected him.
Okay.
So this all started in a local public school bathroom. And I mean, obviously at that age, we had no idea. Just behaviors as he got older just kind of seemed like, what's he doing? But again, we're first-time parents to this. So we don't know the exact signs of, like, we just thought he was just a troublemaker, just always finding the next thing to get into. But
Okay, was he just always wanting to, because my husband, we have 6 children too, and there's different characteristics of each child, and myself and you, and you know, we all have different characteristics. Was he always just wanting to, like, play a little bit with fire, always?
And push the limit.
And push the limit a little bit, more so than the other children?
yes.
Okay.
But I think, you know, like I said, with him being the first child, I kind of, like, I feel like my older sister kind of led the way for me. Like, she might push the limits, and then I would see, like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I see that she got in trouble for that, you know? So they kind of, like, paved the way for their younger siblings. And so then I had Tanner, who was always pushing the limits, but then the next and the next and the next were all, you know, pretty good. But then it's like, well, if they didn't do as bad as he did, you know, like, they were more easygoing. They asked instead of doing. They followed rules where he didn't. So he was just always kind of the wild card.
Oh, wild card. Okay. Okay. More of the wild card. And your oldest, you didn't probably, you know, as parents, we don't always know what we're doing either.
Right.
You know, are we approaching discipline too much? Are we approaching discipline not enough? Where to apply it? When to apply it? You know, there's not really a rule book, you know, to parenting.
I think we felt that a lot, especially as in the teen years, you know, when it becomes more like, okay, we can't let this happen or whatever, and you just, sometimes you think, oh, we're being too hard on them. And then I think as parents, like, one parent is being more strict, and then the other parent is like, oh, maybe it's okay. Usually that was husband more strict. I was like, we're being too strict. But then there were times that he would be like, boys are boys. And I would be like, no, this isn't going to be the way it is. And so I think my husband and I really kind of balanced each other out, because there were, you know, from the little things to the really big things later, it was like one of us had to be the mellow,
The calm in the storm.
Yes, like, it'll be fine, you know.
Okay.
So-
All right. Okay, so I think our viewers, you know, it's an addiction. Was it always just drugs that Tanner was into, or was it a combination? In 7th grade, to be in a bathroom shooting up like that, that's pretty young, and that's that's more getting into the hard stuff, like, really quick
Right.
in my thought process. Sometimes I hear people that have addictions, they'll start with maybe like alcohol,
Right.
or, some pot, early and stuff. So to shoot up in 7th grade, the very first thing that he can remember doing, that's pretty aggressive.
Yeah, and I truly don't think it continued like that because there was a lot of very good times too. When our kids were active in BMX racing. In the later years when he ended up going into treatment and stuff, it was like his counselors were always a little bit amazed that he didn't have any of the predisposing factors to being in treatment and being an addict, because it's like, did you have abuse growing up? Did you have parents that were addicts? Did you have parents that were incarcerated? Parents that weren't together? Like, there's a lot of factors that, quote unquote, contribute to addiction and, other mental health things too. But like, he didn't have any of that. He grew up in a very normal, loving 2-parent household. We both worked. We provided a good life. Our kids went on vacations. They were involved in what they wanted to be. We raised our kids in church. We did all the right things. And the biggest thing, like the hardest pill to swallow with it, is that you just, as a parent, are like, what did we do wrong? Because you think you're doing everything right. But you find out later, like, well, it wasn't good enough. And you can beat yourself up over that, or you can come to terms with, we did the best we could with what we had and how we knew to do it at the time. So, it's just really hard on the whole family, the other siblings and the grandparents. And
Yeah. I'm going to just, you just laid out a lot there for me and for all of us to just, I heard it. I'm just going to maybe back up to way at the beginning, or to when you just started to disclose a few things with, like, how you're feeling, how it was for you, that you were doing all the right things. So when the treatment, like the counselors would say to you, there's certain criteria that usually attribute and are accredited to this a scenario of what you were dealing with a child that was addicted to drugs. Single homes, addict mom and dad, abuse. None of that was present.
Right.
Wow. That is very difficult, because I think about how many of us are, we're not perfect homes, but we have mom, dad, we don't have these things that are going on. So then to have to be faced with this, you had to do a lot of soul searching personally to say, what is going on? What didn't I see? What signs? What happened?
Right.
Wow, Holly, I'm sorry. Wow.
Yeah, it was, you just, every day it's just on your mind of where did we go wrong? And you can't find anything. It's just, it happens, and that's the biggest takeaway I have from it, is that for people who are living with it, with a child or a family member that's close or whatever, is that it's nothing you did. You can't control it. You didn't cause it. There's no cure. It's a long road and it's a lifelong thing, but you can't take it upon yourself. But the other thing is that you're not alone, even though you feel so alone when you're going through it, because you know that your kid is doing something that is very taboo. Sometimes it's illegal things. You know where they are. You want somebody to go get them and arrest them, whatever. You have no control of any of that. And it's such an isolating feeling to think, what did I do? What did I create? And who is he going to hurt in the process? But yeah, you just, like, as a parent, you feel like the biggest failure, and you're not.
Well, the fact that you're even bringing this stuff up and communicating it and articulating it so well, you've had to do a lot of processing to be able to say, it is not my fault.
Right.
I didn't do anything wrong, because I'm sure initially that is what weighs on your shoulders. Thank you for sharing all of that, but I'd like to back up just a little bit, because I think I'd like to understand, like, okay, so obviously you said where it kind of started, where he said that was the first time.
Right.
But can you give me a little bit of a glimpse into, let's pick the age of 18, 17, 18. When was it kind of really amping up?
I would say he had a late August birthday, so he graduated in May, luckily, by the skin of his teeth, graduated high school by the grace of God and some very good teachers at his high school that just really believed in him and pushed him to get through. So he graduated at 17. Basically, the day he graduated, didn't come home. He went out and about, and I think I did the same thing, but I just moved in with my boyfriend, now husband at the time. But he was going to be an adult now and going to go do his own thing. I don't believe he had a job or anything at the time, but I think a lot of times when we're that age, we think we know everything and can do everything. So away he went, and we knew that he was making some questionable decisions at the time, but we didn't really have any proof of the drug use. And it ended up that I feel like it was that summer, so he graduated in May. In July, we find out that his girlfriend is pregnant, and he was so excited, and we were so disappointed.
Okay, so you still were all communicating.
Yeah.
He had just said, you know what, I'm moving out, I'm okay, and
We were communicating, but we were kind of against what he was doing. We're like, you have no job, no plan, nowhere to live.
sure, right.
What are you doing? And he was always a, I'll figure it out as I go kind of guy. Always lived by the seat of his pants, and was super impulsive. And, looking back, it's all the traits that you see with addiction. But I mean, when he told us that we were going to be grandparents, and they were so excited, and he was with his girlfriend, had been for, probably a year or more at that time. I don't really remember. But we were just shocked. We're like, what are you doing? Do you know how hard this is going to be? So we were a little bit upset for a while, but then I had to come to terms with, okay, this baby is coming whether we approve or not. We can either embrace it and be excited, or we can be mad and angry and bitter and upset and maybe never see this kid. So once we came to that, okay, it is what it is. This little child will be loved no matter what his situation. We will not make this child want for anything. And of course, then 9 months later, we get our beautiful first granddaughter, and she's just been the light of our life. But, like I say, she was the greatest gift from God, because her dad wasn't going to be around forever. So that just, really made her so special to us.
Wow. Holly, I don't know if you know this, but you just have you have so much, you drop so much information, and you are a wealth of information to give us insights, individuals and people that don't have an insight into this. Can I go as far, can I call it a horror story for you during those years?
Yeah.
You did everything that you possibly could think of doing, every angle. And, and the way you can express yourself in, initially you find out, well, of course, I think, because he's not even acting adult enough to take care of himself. And
Right.
now we have another human being that they're bringing into the world, so you can see potential, the catastrophic scenarios and situations that perhaps could take place.
Yep.
And then not only that, but now you give us an insight into a gift that was given through this struggle. It's like heartbreaking, but yet so inspiring at the same time.
I guess I have never thought of it that way, so thank you.
Yeah, and you can articulate it. I think you mentioned before we turned the cameras on that you are to a point where you wouldn't mind doing a little bit of speaking on this from your point of view. I think you should keep knocking on that door, because you do have just in the short time that we've been communicating here, you have such a way of, it's like enlightening and it's positive, but yet it's a horror story. I mean, as from any point of from a parent's perspective. I mean, it's like you just did everything possible that you could do.
And yet when he was going through the thick of it, or after losing him, there were so many things that we thought maybe we should have done different.
Yeah.
But hindsight's always 20/20.
Don't we all do that?
But the one thing, I ended up going to Al-Anon during the time of his addiction, and that helped me so tremendously, just to see that side of, like, I didn't cause this, I can't control it, I can't cure it, and just to remove myself from the situation. Like, that was a really hard step to go to that, because it's like, it's embarrassing at first, because you're admitting a problem. And at that point, I was open about our struggles with him, but taking that next step of, like, getting myself help, I think was a little bit humbling. So then you go in there and you're a little bit like, I think it was a moment of desperation of, I just want to go somewhere with people that understand, but also just tell me what to do to make this go away and to make it better. But that was the thing that was even difficult to understand when you got there, is seeing, like, nobody's telling me what to do. I'm leaving with more questions, and I thought it was going to be different until I kept going back and applying the principles of their whole process and all that. But, just learning how to step away from it and seeing that it's not my problem, that was just the greatest gift ever. And so, when I have other parents approach me about, my kid is an addict, or I'm suspecting, and, like, what do I do and how do I get them better? And I'm like, good luck with that. You can't make them get better, but you can get yourself better.
Wow, okay.
And so by learning those principles and just how the tough love and stepping away, like, that's the hardest thing as a parent you'll ever do. But you have to, for your own sanity, your own marriage, your other children, like, you have to let them struggle. My child was homeless. He was on the streets in the area. It's cold here in January, February. I would drive around the town looking for him just to see if he was clothed appropriately. I would, if I knew where he was, I might order a Domino's pizza and just have it sent so that I knew he was eating something. But we would, he would come around a little bit. We were relatively estranged for a couple of years.
Okay, Holly, I have to, I'm just going to stop, because I want to understand. So I think we got to about 17, 18, he graduated, and then midsummer you found out you were going to be grandparents.
Yes.
Okay, so he's, 18, 19 now when he becomes a father. And, okay, so a couple things. You said that's when he really started amping up with the using. Did he get married to the mother of this child?
No, they never did get married.
Did they stay together?
For a few years, yes.
Okay.
And when I said the drug use was amping up, it was based on what she was telling me, because she was struggling with his behaviors and telling me he's doing, at the time it was probably smoking weed. Okay. She was finding it in their house where they were living, and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know how to handle it. Like, you guys are adulting now, and, she was in the situation I was in. Like, just tell me what to do. But the only advice I could give her was, you have to get out of this situation. Like, I appreciate you're trying to stay together for the child, but if you can better your life, you need to leave him. And that was hard for her. I mean, she had to find other arrangements. I think she was working really part-time at the time, where he was supposed to be making the money, and when he worked, he did well, but he didn't hold a job for very long at a time. It was just go for a few days and not show up because the drugs were getting in the way. But yeah, he was using, she was struggling. She finally had the courage to get out of the situation because I said, you're dragging yourself down too.
Not only yourself, but you have a child here.
Yeah.
So did the child go with the mother then, your
She did,
granddaughter?
yes.
But you stayed close.
We did.
And you stayed connected with your granddaughter.
Yes, and I think it was, back then it was a little bit difficult for me and the mom because I think I almost felt like she was punishing us for Tanner's behaviors. Like I felt at times that she wasn't allowing us to see her daughter as much as I wanted. I wanted that child every single weekend because that's just I love to be with my grandkids. And, I was always wanting to help out, be there for her, do what he wasn't doing, just to be that other responsible person. And it took a lot of us talking and coming to Jesus moment of that she, the granddaughter, is number one in this. I don't care where you're at in a relationship with my son. That's irrelevant to me, but this child will always come first. I will never put her in harm's way. I think Mom was afraid that if we had her, we would maybe just tell him, oh, we have her, come and get her, you can take her for the weekend. I didn't believe he was making good choices, that he was safe to have a child, and she was a toddler at the time, so I think it just took a lot of trust for the mom to realize that I wasn't going to turn over a child and put her in potential harm's way. And so once we came to that mutual respect, it's been great, and we've been great, I say co-parents. She's always lived very close to us, and we're so blessed. I've been able to be, she's with me almost every weekend, and she's my best friend, and so I just so appreciate her mom allowing the relationship that we've had, because it could have been so ugly.
Right, but I think communicating.
Yeah.
I think that's what I took away from that you called it a come to Jesus moment, so it was probably a difficult conversation or conversations to have, but you needed to get her trust. So obviously she's a great mom that she wanted to take that child away, but also at the same time, what struck me is Tanner's your child, and you took
a side.
You did, and it wasn't Tanner's, but you did it because it was right. It's not your daughter-in-law, but your Tanner's
was his significant other for several years.
Yes, but you did that because you knew that was the right thing to do.
Yes.
So that struck me, and that builds trust too. That. For me too, listening to this story, the stuff that you had to process and had to think through, and your honesty, when you went to go get help, and you said it was embarrassing, and then you were saying, tell me what to do. Well, nobody can tell any of us what to do, but I think just surrounding yourself with people maybe kind of
get it.
Yeah, that in that non-judgmental. Yeah.
And I think the thing in going to something like that is you see all walks of life, that this addiction does not discriminate.
Oh, yeah.
And just, you can look at a picture and think, oh yeah, they're probably addicted, or they don't have money, or they don't have the best of things, they don't have jobs, so they must be on something, but it hits all groups, it hits all types of people. I just so feel like we're living proof of that. Like we had the quote unquote perfect family, and it still hit us. So
you were very clear on that.
Yeah.
You could articulate that. We understand that. Just the way that you, your approaches. With Tanner's significant other, how you approached that and didn't give up, and you kept going. So that you could have a relationship with.
And
your
there were times
granddaughter.
it was very frustrating, and it was very disheartening, and I felt kind of I don't know if disrespected is the word, but not getting to have this child, like she's right there and I can't see her, I could have easily gotten bitter and just been like, forget it, this isn't worth the fight. But she was worth the fight. And,
oh my gosh.
you know, I will fight to my dying day for any of my grandchildren. But I mean, that was just an unusual situation.
Sure.
To have to go against my child. And, you know, there was times where he would ask if we had her, and he would want to come around to see her, which was fine, except that his behaviors were very erratic. And sometimes it was really good when he was around, sometimes it wasn't. And so a lot of times it was easier to just kind of keep him at arm's length. So then I had to just, you know, kind of downplay our involvement with her and not share, oh, she's with us, not post on my social media like I like to show off my grandchildren. And, you know, you kind of had to keep it a little bit more hidden and private that we had her. You know, there was times even fears of him showing up in the middle of the night. And I don't think he ever would have hurt her, but you don't know when they're under the influence of something like, could he come in and take her at night? And then she's on my care, you know, and I promised Mom she's protected, she's with us. And so, I mean, it was just so many different avenues of trust, and I don't know, like, even his communication with us was erratic at times, you know, like, he would call sometimes and just shoot the breeze, like, hey, how's it going? Life is great. When he's up, he was up. And then next thing we know, we'd get mostly messages in the middle of the night telling us how awful of parents we were. We ruined his life. If we would have just done X, Y, or Z for him, he wouldn't be in this position. You know, we keeping his child from him, like all the things. And so those are the things that just really kicked you down as a parent, that like, okay, maybe he's right, maybe we're being too hard or whatever. But I mean, the whole scope of addiction and what we did for him and the money we spent replacing vehicles, replacing clothing as he got into his addiction, you know, like he would be somewhere with his backpack of everything he owned was in a backpack. And he would maybe have to leave a situation for whatever reason, he would leave his stuff behind. We would buy Christmas presents. He would sell them, you know, pawn them, whatever. And so you want to provide for these things when he is destitute, but then you know like it may not last, and then he's just going to give it away. And so then it was, well, now you get hand-me-downs. Now we go to the thrift store and we buy stuff. But, you know, it was just things like that even, that I can't buy him the same things and gifts like I'm buying his brothers because I know he'll probably sell that. And so, you know, even that's just awkward.
Wow. The way when I'm listening to you and I think about, you know, if I didn't know you and I ran into you someplace, let's say we're vacationing down in Florida and we're sitting at a restaurant and I look over at a couple and you know, or somebody that's just having a good time with some friends out, you know, in our local area. And I think about how everybody has a story and how much pain that everybody, not everybody, to a degree, like with yours or worse or whatever it is, but everybody has a fight that they're carrying. What's that old saying? Or be kind.
Be kind because everybody's fighting a fight that we don't see.
And I think about you. Had I ran into you someplace, you know, when this was all going on, you still had to maintain being a mother to the other 3 sons. You still held down a job. You were a wife, which I'm going to be getting into because I think that dynamic is a very interesting dynamic too when you have to go through this, being, you know, husband and wife.
Yeah.
But I just want to, it's amazing to me the load that you have carried privately and maintained somewhat of a normal life through this pain and the heartache and the directions. What should I do? What shouldn't I do?
Right.
Getting a text in the middle of the night saying, you know, if you would have done X, Y, Z for me, I wouldn't be here. Virtually, he's the one that made the choices.
Right.
But he's blaming you, which I think is that typical?
Yeah, that's very typical of addict behavior. And, you know, when I've talked with other parents about addiction, it's like we all have the same story. It's just different characters, because some of the things that you have lived through, you can't even make it up. It's like some things are so comical because the stories they tell, the things they do. We had an instance where I think we bought 5 or 6 vehicles because he would wreck a vehicle, however, but then he couldn't go to work because he didn't have a car. So if we didn't want to be the ones toting him around and getting him to his jobs,
Right.
if we just bought him a cheap car, he would get, okay, so then something would happen to this car. One time he lost a car. Like, how do you lose a car? It was at so-and-so's house last I saw it, and now it's not there. I have no idea where it is. Okay, that's
Oh
the
my
most
God.
ridiculous story.
Right. Not only that, but I mean, I'm thinking about like what's it being used for now, and it's in your, probably your name.
Our name, yes.
Oh.
We
And
had
insurance
one
and-
instance, we bought him a really nice car, got a good deal on it. It broke down, whatever happened. We were on vacation, so his car was now parked in town. He couldn't move it because he didn't have any money to have it towed and whatever. So in the meantime, he and his friend go and punch a hole in the gas tank with some tool to drain the fuel because he had a full tank of fuel and his buddy needed gas. So now we wreck a gas tank to get my friend some gas money. Are you gas in his car? You know, so it was just stupid things like that. We paid rent because it was a matter of if we don't pay the rent, he's 3 months behind, he's gonna get evicted, then where?
Yeah.
You know, so then, okay, now let me write a check for $2,000 to cover rent because we didn't want him to come home. Because that caused a lot of upheaval if he was home. So you had to keep that separate from his brothers. You know, obviously they saw what was going on, but you try to shelter them a little bit from it. And, you know, that, I think they knew more than they let on at the time because the next oldest was pretty close in age. So, you know, they didn't run in the same circles, but they knew.
They know.
Yeah, they know
People,
the other kids. And
people talk in a smaller
yeah,
community.
and
the
then
kids do.
and then there started to be some things like actual like breaking the law things, other than doing drugs is breaking the law. But you know, from a law enforcement perspective, like when I would call, I'd be like, I know he's at such and such place. Go arrest him. I know he's using. Like, go get him, and put him in jail. Make him have his wake-up call. But they can't do that. They have to be like harming somebody, harming themselves, or committing a true act of, you know, breaking the law. So that was frustrating as a parent. Like, I'm telling you where he is, you go get him, but they can't just go get him. And so it just ended up being a lot of things like that of just, I want him to get help, but then if he would get incarcerated, you go to jail for something, they just get out right away,
Right.
and they just go right back to it, and so that's frustrating because you can't make them stay there. Like, you don't have the power as a parent, and but then, you know, and then he got into some things where now he's on the news and he's on Facebook, and we're seeing his face, and people are sending you, sharing the link. Is this your kid? Obviously, you know, like my biggest lesson I've learned with that is, you know, we all see things, we see people pop up on the news for doing things, whether they really did it or they're being accused. Don't share it on Facebook. They have a family. You know, it's not just that person that made a stupid decision, but now it's his whole family, his siblings, his parents, his grandparents, his aunts, his uncles. They're all pretty much paying the same price. You know, they're having to live with it too. So just don't do it. Don't share it. You know, we all see it. Why share it?
Right, yeah.
It's like you're taking sides or something. And so that was,
Well,
you know,
it's just hurtful.
It
It's
is.
hurtful.
Yep.
And like you pointed out, it's not just the person that did it. Everybody is involved. There's so
it's
many.
such a ripple effect with
yeah.
the addiction and how many people
right.
it affects, and you don't even know how much it's affecting them because as the parents, yeah, you talk about it more, but the other family maybe doesn't.
Right. So I'm just going to kind of keep moving along here a little bit. Obviously, he passed away. So how old was Tanner when he passed away?
22.
22. So from the time that he graduated at 17, that's when he really started amping up. He had a child in that duration. Was he incarcerated several times, one time, multiple?
A few times, just for minor things.
For minor things? Yeah. Okay, and then, did you know, was the drug use, was it getting a harder drug? Did you ever know any of those details?
We didn't, the whole time he was using, we didn't know what it was. We knew he would, because it was his behaviors, it was his lifestyle, it was his physical appearance. He would go from very thin, all of a sudden he'd gain a whole bunch of weight. He would, really fluctuate that way. So we knew it was something more.
Okay.
And kind of what it got down to was my frustrations with how do we get him help when he doesn't want to get the help. I found out from local law enforcement, if he is threatening harm to himself, to someone else, they can do a mandatory hold to get him in and get him held against his own will.
Okay, so when you say a mandatory hold.
Psychiatric.
Okay, so we're not talking being incarcerated,
Right.
like in jail. We're talking in is it?
Mental health facility of some sort.
Is that like a hospital, or is there certain, is it?
Yeah.
It is,
In our
okay.
area, yes, it was a hospital.
A hospital, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so they can mandate that they go for 72 hours where they detox. You hope they come to that moment of realization, like, I need help.
Okay.
Oftentimes they don't, but it's your first line of, okay, we might have a chance here.
Okay.
And so then he got held, and
Okay, so he's in the hospital at this time because
he had sent me a text basically threatening to kill himself, that his life was a mess, nobody cared about him, all this. I had found out the night before he had called asking if we would pay for him to stay in a hotel in our town because it was cold and he wanted a place to stay. And I had to tell him no, because you can't help. What's one night in a hotel, really? It's not going to help anything. And so he proceeded to call our pastor. I don't know how he knew these ins and outs, but you can call churches and get help. He called our pastor and asked if the church could pay for him to stay in this hotel. So pastor called me and said, is this okay? And I said, I don't believe you should, but you do you, if that's what God is telling you to do. Like, I was a little bit upset that he was going to do this. So at this point now I know where he's at, because the pastor said, well, we're going to do it because if anybody else called, our church would help. So now I knew where he was. Now he's sending me these messages threatening self-harm. So I was able to get in touch with local law enforcement, who I have a family member that's in law enforcement. So I texted him and, kind of said, how do we get the ball rolling to get him? Because at this point, I think he had been wanted for something and he had a warrant and they were looking for him and he was dodging the bullet. And so I now knew where he was, let them know, so they went in to search for him. So I'm trying to keep a conversation going with him via Facebook Messenger, just to keep him talking and know he's still there. And as he was messaging me, I was like, oh, let's go to lunch. I'll come pick you up. And I have your daughter. Well, you can see her. Well, he was starting to read into me like I was giving him too much time. And so he was getting suspicious of me. And he's like, maybe I don't want you to know where I am and all that. Well, anyway, in the meantime, he's looking out his balcony window at this hotel and he sees cops rolling in. And he's like, you called the cops on me, didn't you? And I'm like, no, why would I do that? I just want to come and get you for lunch. And long story short, he jumped off a third-floor balcony and ran. And so now they're looking around town for him, and he's on the loose around town. They finally catch him, bring him into the ER. So I was like, okay, sweet, we have him. So I went in to see him and be with him, and he cussed me out up and down about, being a traitor and calling him in, and, I'm pleading with him like, this is your chance to get your help. You're here, I don't have a problem. And he's continuing to, cut me down and whatever. And I finally just said, well, I thought I would be here to be support, but you aren't ready for that. So you let me know when you're ready to be decent to me and I'll come back. And I left the ER. The nurses are applauding me as I left because I stood my ground with him and didn't cave. And I get home a couple hours later, they call me and they say, oh, we don't see any reason to hold him. He said it was all a misunderstanding. You read into the text too much. Actually, he said at one point that it wasn't even him messaging me. Somebody must have had his computer. And I mean, these are just the lies that addicts tell you that are so ridiculous. And so this, whoever it was that did his evaluation that called me and said, I don't see any reason to hold, I was like, this is absolutely insane. He's right here with you. I have all these text messages to prove he was going to kill himself. You know, he's threatened this. If he doesn't hurt himself, he's going to hurt someone else. Like, what more do you want me to do? And they're like, well, could you come and get him for the night, and then we'll find a placement for him tomorrow? And I'm like, absolutely not. If I come get him, he'll just take off, and then we'll be right back to square one. So since I wouldn't come get him, they were forced to hold him and find him a facility. So they got him transferred to, you know, the place where they had a spot open for him. And
I thought, Holly, I thought he had a warrant for his arrest.
I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
But it's all such a blur those times, but because he had warrants, and at some point, however he got held, they termed it a civil commitment because he had threatened self-harm. I think then they can hold him on that because they didn't take him to jail. So they took him to the healthcare facility, and it ended up being it was over a holiday weekend, so then he couldn't see a judge for a couple extra days, so it made him be there for 5 days instead of 3. So I was like, yes, this is a score. He's not on the streets. He's in a warm, safe place and all that. Well, so that just started the ball rolling then, where we got a social worker involved and got him into some treatment help. And he was resistant at first, as are most. But because of these previous warrants, I think he had to be in like an inpatient facility, and it was something with the terms of his civil commitment, like you have to be working to bettering yourself, or you can't be on the streets, basically. So anyway, they put him in this facility. His first one was a locked facility. They kept him as long as they could. They found him another, like an actual drug and alcohol treatment facility, put him in that. That's more like apartment living. He took off from there within a couple days. It was right after Christmas. We had a great Christmas. He was clean. We gave him nice presents. A few days into it, he leaves in the middle of the night. So they call me and they're like, well, he left, which they can leave. It's their choice. And so they're like, well, what do you want us to do with his stuff? I'm like, well, I'm coming there to clean it out because I don't want to replace it again. And so it just kind of started this whole, he took off then. He was gone for a few weeks. This was now January, and it's cold out, and I'm worried sick, where is he? So we're trying to track his locations on Facebook, and you know, they have basically now another warrant out, like if he's not in treatment, he's got to be incarcerated. So if they found him, they then took him to jail until they could find another treatment facility. So this went on for months. He would get to a facility, he would leave, he'd hide, cops would find him, put him in jail, till they had a bed open up at a facility, he'd go to another facility. So eventually he got himself into some locked facilities, which were essentially jail, but they were treatment centers. And so and we were driving 3-4 hours every weekend to go, because we would go for every Sunday or Saturday afternoon visit, whatever, because we wanted to show our support. Like, if you're getting better, we're going to be there for you. And took his daughter with to every visit, so he got to have that one-on-one time with her and stuff like that. But so yeah, it just progressed, all these treatment facilities and all this in and out and ups and downs for us. And
all that. Wow, that was a lot, Holly. That was a lot. I'd let you go. I just because you're very capable of articulating, and I followed right along with you. How long did all that up and down and incarcerated and locked facilities and out and running, how long?
That worst of it was like 9 months.
Okay.
But prior to that, it was just him just flitting about the community.
Sure.
Doing a job, quitting a job, breaking the law, being good. Like, he was just all over the place for a few years. From the time he was 18 to about 20 or 21. He had some situations where he was, as he told us a lot once he was in recovery and he was sober and we had time to really talk about the things, and where he was at that point of, I am going to get better. Like, this is terrible. I've lived a terrible life, because of this drug addiction. But I mean, he was abducted. He was locked in a trunk. He escaped a trunk out in North Dakota somewhere, ran into a hotel and asked for help. He hid in a linen closet. I mean, he's been in the hospital. He escaped the hospital with his IV pole intact. And I mean, he's just, the stories that we have about him are just, they're never ending. And that's where I feel like the story just goes on and on and on, and to wrap it up. But
right. And I think there was a thought process as you were explaining all of this with Tanner, your son. And I think sometimes we don't want to probably talk about all of this, our child. The phrase that's coming to my mind is like airing dirty laundry. But I think sometimes, very carefully, lovingly, we have to share some of these stories because I don't think I think it's more common than what we want to say or believe sometimes. So if there's a viewer out there thinking, my God, this is, it can be happening, believe it or not, it can be happening to a church member, our next door neighbor,
it's happening everywhere.
Our own family. Yep. So I think it's an extremely, I am so honored, Holly, that you are here and that you are explaining it, and the honesty, the level of the graphicness of it. I don't know if you know, but I mean, I'm just, it's kind of wild, to hear and to listen to this, because it's terrible. I mean, what you and your husband and family have had to go through, it's very difficult. It's been very difficult. So, I think, and the approach that you're taking, it's not airing Tanner's dirty laundry. It's not airing your family's dirty laundry. I know you are doing this because you are trying to get it out, that this can happen to your next door neighbor, your own family, people that we love. And this is really the ugly side of it. It's hard stuff. It's hard stuff. It's what you and your family have endured. I'm gonna, before we move a little bit, further ahead in this, in Tanner's story, I want to ask you, how is your husband and you and your relationship when it really is getting serious here? Like, third story. Did we break an ankle, or did we break anything?
I know, not that time.
Hit something? 3 stories?
I think when they're under the influence, they're invincible.
I know, but it's something could still happen. Even if they think they're invincible,
right,
it still could break and hit, and
I think because he probably jumped onto the sand from the hotel he was on. It was on a beach.
Wow.
So I think the sand, maybe. I don't know.
Okay. Well, whatever. He didn't break anything.
He didn't,
concuss, or hit something. But so through all of that, like, where are you and your husband at relationship-wise, if you don't mind me asking, because this is a real deal too. You're at your wit's end.
Oh, we were at our wit's end. And I would say, for the most part, we were a united front, and we supported each other. Of course, there was times where I thought he was too hard on him. He thought I was too hard on him. He was the one that would buy the vehicles, where I'm like, no, we need to stop buying vehicles. But then he's like, but he can't have a job. And, he was seeing the practical side of things. I'm the emotional side, like tough love, we can't do this. But no, I would say mostly we were on the same page. Initially, I think he thought I talked too much about it. I always said I just had like verbal diarrhea. When I would start, somebody would say, how are the kids? And it would all just go to, what's Tanner doing, and my frustrations. And I'm saying it like, and I think looking back, like I was airing all of that as a way of maybe alleviating my own guilt of what he was doing. I don't know. Maybe I was trying to make myself vulnerable so that, so that people trust me. I don't really know, but I really think it was something to do with just like I feel terrible about what my kid is doing, and I feel like I've made mistakes as a parent, and so maybe I'm just trying to like relieve some
or maybe you're just reaching out, trying to process what you are having to go through on a daily.
Yes,
I mean,
and it was just like that was all that my mind was on was him, and like I have 3 other kids that are great kids, but I was focusing on all the negative.
Well, the way you processed it, when you said like you word vomited to people, that was just simply processing, what you were going through. Yeah. So I liked how you said when you and your husband were not divided. You were a united front. Mm-hmm. There was a little things that you maybe deviated with. You were harder. He was harder at certain times. Because I think that's a big issue when you're dealing with a problematic child that you and your spouse can have some difficulties. Mm-hmm. You brought up about your pastor. Are you Christian?
Yes.
Was he influential? Did you communicate with him?
I don't think even then we did, because we didn't need help. I just would vomit all over people about the problems, and maybe that was my way, as you said, of processing, but I didn't need help at that time because maybe there wasn't really a problem. I don't know. No, I never did reach out, and it just took the advice of some of his social workers that maybe we as a family should seek the help of Al-Anon. Mm-hmm. And I was the only one that went. My husband, being like most men, they don't need help, they don't need counseling, mm-hmm. nothing like that. So I went, mm-hmm. and I would share with him. Mm-hmm. So I feel maybe he learned a little through osmosis from mm-hmm. me. But I think that's just a really hard thing for a lot of men to go mm-hmm. and admit that defeat of mm-hmm. we've failed our child, mm-hmm. but also we'll figure it out on our own. Mm-hmm.
So you said you didn't need any help, but really you were reaching out for help. Was it the spiritual help that when I ask you about reaching out to your pastor, at that moment, it was more like a hands-on help that you were looking for? Or
I think then the help that I thought was lock him away and get rid of these demons that are in him and make him get better. But then I learned, in the whole process, like, you can't force it. And so then I think eventually, like, we had a really wonderful pastor, and, sharing with him, he would come, like if Tanner was in the hospital, in the ER, for instance, for all of his things, he would come and just pray with him. Mm. And Tanner had a good respect for him. He didn't go to church or anything, but mm-hmm. that pastor in particular was just really able to communicate with the kids, and especially young men. I felt like he did a really good job. Mm-hmm. So, we would just call on him in that regards. And also because, like, as a Christian person just growing up in the church, like, that's what you did. You called on your pastor when there were hard times. Mm-hmm. And I don't feel like my faith really grew until after the loss. Like I went through the motions of what I'm supposed to do, but maybe it didn't really resonate with me of like why we do that and how it can make your heart feel better. Like it's if you have nothing else to offer in the way of help, like just praying for someone. Maybe that's all you can do.
Right.
And so I think just having the pastor present was just a little bit of peace of mind for us. Mm-hmm. And, he was willing to do it, and we appreciated that. So, yeah.
Well, life is very, as I've journeyed through, I mean, there's times when it's very ugly. I remember, difficult times many years ago. I was angry. Mm-hmm. I was in particular angry at God for allowing stuff. Right. And as you process it, that's just part of the processing, all of those emotions. And I think sometimes people, and I've done it myself, and maybe perhaps you have, we think about like, we're Christian, but yet how can we be angry at God? How can we why did you allow? These are all just typical normal processes of going through some of these things. And it's really interesting to me that it was after the death of your son that your faith grew.
Yeah.
That's what's cool. So we'll get into that in just a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of keep walking along here. 9 months was where it was really, I would say, could I get by with using the word volatile?
Yeah.
There was a lot of volatile things going on.
Yep.
Incarcerated.
ER visits, injuries, homelessness, destitute,
Okay. So,
not knowing where he was.
okay, so now we get to, where's the last couple weeks, days, what happens here at the end?
So it was basically like 9 months he was in and out of treatment. And then he was in the final facility he was in is where he died. He just didn't wake up.
So he was in the facility when he died?
He was in a facility, which, kind of like having peace in his passing, part of that came from that. Because when he was going through the horrible ups and downs of addiction, you think the worst. You think he's going to be murdered, kidnapped, go missing, overdose in an alley, in a bathroom, like the gross places when they're homeless. You think all that. And then he died in a bed in a safe facility. But we had been with him that day. He was new to that facility, and it was our first family day. So we had been there, spent the couple hours or whatever that we had with him, ordered pizza, got him his pop and whatever his groceries he wanted to have there, brought his daughter, we played basketball outside. Like, it was just a normal day. And we left and talked to him again that night. We talked to him every day when he was in treatment. He had his phone. He could call us, and he did many times a day, because when I say he was good, he was really good. Said goodnight that night. And
So he was not volatile towards you at the end or in that treatment?
Nope.
It was a really good, you were really happy.
He was being taken care of. He was finally in a place where he was saying, I'm going to get better.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I mean, it all happened in such a more peaceful way than we ever imagined it would. Because when you're dealing with the throes of addiction and it's so bad, you can't help but think the worst thoughts.
Right.
And so, like I said, we said goodnight. The next morning, we didn't get our normal call, because he would always call my husband on his way to work.
Oh my
But again, that wasn't so unusual. We didn't think anything of that. And then I happened to be home. It was an August morning, and get a knock on the door. I could hear the dogs going crazy in the garage, and I went out, and trying to hold the dogs back because they're trying to get at this person outside, and I could see it was a police officer, and I could see that he had a paper in his hand, and I thought, oh God, here we go, more stuff on Tanner, because we were always getting phone calls and questions about where he was and what he was doing, and they asked if we knew who he was, and I'm like, well, yeah, that's my son, and he said, is there any reason why he's in this particular town? And I said, yep, he's in drug treatment down there. And he's like, actually, back that up, take that out. No, he had the paperwork and said he was there to inform us of the passing of Tanner.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself, trying to hold my dogs back, and he's like, can you step outside? So I'm out there, and I'm just like, what? I'm just shocked. I'm like, I just saw him yesterday. He was fine. Like, what happened, And of course, they have no details. He was just a police officer doing his job. Horrible job for that man. I mean, to go deliver that news. But I was just in shock. I had my youngest son was still home. I mean, it was summer vacation, so I went in, and he was the only child home, and I went into his room, and I'm like, wake up, and I'm just screaming at this point, and having to share that his brother had died. And then I have to call my husband, call our other 2 boys at work, and tell them they need to come home. Worst day ever.
What day was it?
August 4th, 2019.
Sorry, Holly. They didn't give you any information. They
No.
just said that he had passed.
Yep. And, at that point, that's when all the thoughts, like, what happened? Fentanyl was starting to kind of make an appearance that we had heard of in the area. And this facility he was in was a little bit less secure than some of the others. So I instantly thought somebody brought something into that facility and he took it. And I was mad because I'm like, you were doing so well and now you do this and you die. So of course, had an autopsy done and stuff, and that took forever, 4 or 5 months of waiting.
Oh my gosh.
And we finally get a call from the coroner and he was clean. There was nothing in his system.
What happened?
They don't know. Said he probably just got tired from the drug use.
He was 22?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did they do health checkups? I mean, they were checking his vitals and stuff? I mean, I'm assuming.
I think in his last few years when he was an active addict, I don't think he was getting treatment, like other than his injuries or whatever. He wasn't getting regular physicals. So, I don't think they knew that. I ordered a copy of the autopsy so that I could read the reports. My sister took it from me and read it, and she said, I don't think you should read it.
Okay.
But she also said that it didn't give her any more insight either as to what happened. It was just unknown cause of death. But, those can get pretty graphic with the things that they're taking out of their body and measuring and weighing and all that. So she said, I don't think you need to read that stuff. But, yeah, the coroner personally called and talked to my husband and said, I hate doing this, calling about kids, but she said, there's no answers, and I'm really sorry. But she said sometimes with those hard drugs, it's just hard on their hearts or hard on their brains, and it just gives up.
Wow.
But, for us, it was like, yay, he was clean.
Right.
He was getting better.
Right.
So, that made us happy.
Right.
But also, like, the piece of it came from, we're done with all this fighting and all this upheaval in our lives. Like, we can finally sleep at night. And knowing that he's not on the streets, he's not using, he's not chancing an overdose, he's not hurting anybody.
Right.
All those things that you worry about when they're using, we don't have to do that anymore. So, there's peace in that.
Okay. That is.
And that's where I feel like my faith grew exponentially.
Okay.
In knowing that God got me through all that.
Okay. Because, Holly, I have to, I'm just, I don't even, that was just a lot. I'm sorry. I mean, it just hit so hard. But I have to think about, like when somebody loses a child, when they die, that's when the problems and the heartache and the pain and the, all the, you said, the upheaval in the home happens. You had been through all of that for years.
Right.
And it was when he passed, there was peace.
Yep. And then I think that for me brought guilt because I felt okay. Of course, I was upset and angry and wish he could have lived life and seen his daughter grow up and all those things that he's not going to get to do.
Wow.
But it was just, that
your faith increased after. That's what's amazing to me. That's when your level, when we have faith that's increasing, that means that you are appreciating what
we have left.
What you have left. And, wow.
I think what I'm saying is like having the guilt that I don't feel as bad as maybe I should feel about it, because now I'm just like at peace and I'm settled and I don't have to do this anymore, and we don't have to have his daughter see him go through this. Like she was too little to know at the
She
time.
never saw it. You're right. Yeah.
So, you know, it was just, we finally could breathe and we could get a full night of sleep and not have to worry of what we were going to hear the next day. Or
What is so amazing to me, Holly, is, I mean, the message is very, very clear that when he passed away, you had spoken of, you know, like you're kind of feeling guilty of like, why am I at peace? But I think you're trying to find that or fill that. You think you should be feeling that. But the gift that you've been given is that, I mean, you went through all of it already. It's peace, and that peace is outweighing the pain
right,
that he died in a facility, not in the streets. He was safe. He was in a bed. So your mother heart is at peace with that.
right.
And that is such a beautiful thing and a gift, you know, that has been given to you. I'd like to ask you, Holly, we've covered so many things here, and you've been so gracious to share your heart, to share insight into this, you know, into drug addiction. What I would like, if you could, there's obviously a before and after moment here in your life. Would you be able to articulate who you were before and who you are now?
I think before, maybe I dwelled more on the negative and poor me, all these things are going wrong. What did we do? You know, what did we do wrong? More emotional. I think after I've just learned, you know, one is the biggest thing is just the increased faith and just knowing that, you know, there is a higher being, that life sucks sometimes, but you will get through it if you have faith and have hope. I don't dwell. I don't let little things bother me as much as I used to. Of course, I still do some. But trying to just like live more in the moment of we have right now, and just I love when it's my kids and my grandkids, and you know, just spending time with family is really important. I think I say no easier to things, like if it doesn't serve me. I used to be a people pleaser, like, oh, okay, I'll just, you know, yeah, I'll do it, but I'll grumble about it. Where now I'm just like, no, you know, that takes up too much energy, too much thought in my mind. It's you know, not serving me, so it's okay to say no, and I'm okay with that. So I think I just have become more peaceful and let things go. I don't hold on to grudges, and I don't want that to take up a place in my heart, because there's much bigger things. So
Can I say what I have seen in the duration of this conversation?
say it.
Holly, you are an incredibly strong person.
Oh, thanks.
So even at your weakest moments that we've shared and we've been through, and that you're emotional at, you just radiate strength. You faithful strength, and that's been very profound through this conversation. Is your level of, even when you were fumbling around and not knowing how to do it and what to do and the next steps, your strength radiated through this entire conversation. For me, that's what I took away from you. Stand tall. All of the scars that we carry as individuals through our life, stand tall because of what we've been through, and it makes us who we are today.
Right.
So, Holly, thank you very, very much for being so honest and just, you know, I mean, the loss of a child is like a parent's worst nightmare.
Yep, it is.
And you have, you've made it through.
We survived, and we thrive.
Yeah, survive to thrive. I like that, and that's what you're doing. So thank you, Holly, very much for joining me on Real Feel Insights, and I wish you just much happiness.
Thank you.